Gedhia Mamo is from Marsabit County. She wants to be the next woman rep in Marsabit. And she's hoping that at least by the time we get to August 9th, a sufficient number of her voters will still be alive. Because the insecurity in Marsabit has just been like that serpent.
It is shockingly alarming.
Yes, it has been allowed to remain in place. It has not been addressed for decades, and it is a big issue. Gedhia, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you in the Situation Room. That is the hot seat. So occupy it, enjoy it. You come from Marsabit County, the largest county by landmass in the country. If you were to put Nairobi plus, how many other counties would we join around Nairobi to make Marsabit?
I'm not sure, but I know it's about 72 kilometers squared.
2 kilometers squared is a lot. It's like here you get to near Naivasha, then you go the same distance of here to Naivasha around. My friend, just think Machakos ndani.
We're putting in Nairobi,
Kajiado.
parts of Kajiado at least, Machakos, Kiambu, Muranga.
Thika definitely in its Muranga.
It's that big.
Sure.
The largest county by landmass. And you are traversing that entire county, seeking votes so that you can come and represent the people in the National Assembly. What do you do?
I quit my consultancies to join politics. I'll begin from there. But previously, I've worked with the county government as a chief officer for tourism, culture, and social services. And then I've engaged in consultancies about governance with development partners like USAID, European Union, on governance mostly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the time that you worked in the county government, which was it? Was it in this term or in the previous term?
In the previous term, 2014 to 2017.
Under then Governor Ukuri Yatani.
Sure.
And you were in charge, you were the PS for tourism.
Yes.
What was the job?
First of all, it's about forming the very basic foundation of even a county government, because it was at the inception and implementation of the new constitution. So starting from zero, as you know, part of, let's say northern Kenya didn't have most of these ministries, like Ministry of Tourism, the old Department of Tourism. There was nothing like that. So it's basic structures. In 4 years, chief officers joined 1 year later. So we joined the county governments in 2014. So in the 4 years, we're doing the basic structures, offices, staffing, and then as well as trying to just bring to life tourism. Marsabit is beautiful. Besides the killings, just as being stupid and foolish, it's beautiful. It is home to imagine a forest, a very dense forest, a microclimate, which is just then Marsabit National Park. It has the desert, the only true desert in East Africa. We wouldn't be going to Dubai, we'd just be going for desert safaris just here at home. So the landscape, the culture, I know you hear about Borana and Gabra and Rendile. We actually have 14 communities, all with distinct, cultures. So it's beautiful. So that's all things we were telling the world. And we were, by the time, or even today, we were on the, Kenya Tourism Board calendars for events, for cultural festivals, for desert tours. Yeah, so that is what we were bringing out. And that is what, sadly, we're also killing by the conflicts. Yeah.
So it's all about that, the resources. You have a national park, you have a desert, you have Africa's largest wind power plant, you have all these things, and yet the 14 communities are involved in non-ending conflict. You said it's just stupid.
Sure.
Why do you say it's just stupid?
Because as opposed to what's on the media, that it's over pasture and water for livestock, that's not what it is. It's stupid for me because it's about politics. It's just about very few selfish politicians trying to, by conflict, put the ethnic groups together. If I get killed and I'm Borana, I'll hear my leader, political leader, say the enemies are killing us. So we'll shrink back together as Borana or shrink back together as Gabra. And you, as a politician seeking a seat, you're sure of my community is intact. Because now I'm not losing any of my vote to the other person. And unfortunately, most of the time, the people running for the big office is Borana against Gabra. It's different. It's a bit different this year, though. So I think it's...
How is it different this year?
Because this year we have also the Rendiles running for governor. Again, we don't have a sole candidate for Borana versus a sole candidate for Gabra, where, Gabras will rally behind their sole candidate against Boranas against their sole candidate. And then Rendile will be always split into two. And Burji is also into two because they've always been given the deputy. You as a Gabra take deputy to be a Burji, the Gabra does the same. The Gabra takes Rendile for Senate, the Borana does the same. The rest of us minorities, align yourself wherever. So it's a bit different because the Rendiles have decided we can as well become a governor.
What community do you come from? I was always going to ask you that question anyway.
Let me say, born Sakuye and I'm married to Rendile.
So Sakuye is also one of the 14 communities.
Sure.
In terms of comparison by number, if you look at the Borana, Gabra, Rendile, Burji, and Sakuye, how many are you as Sakuye?
According to the 2019 census, I'd say Borana is probably 260,000, Gabra is about 150, Sakuye is just 30,000. And we have El Molos in the same county are about 1,000.
What about the Turkana? Because you border Turkana anyway.
Yeah, we do. I wouldn't...
Are they significant?
Sure. Probably about 10,000 because they're just, as neighbors living in Marsabit. But Turkana is in the country about 1 million population. Yeah. But in Marsabit County, would say maybe 10,000, not so many, sure.
Yeah, even as you say these things, I mean, it seems like it's common knowledge that obviously this is not a resource conflict that is seeing, unfortunately, people dying in this manner. You've been able to figure it out. The next person has been able to figure it out. So then it's no mystery that those who are doing these killings, who are operating in this manner, also know very well that in some cases, they're being used by political leaders or political aspirants to do this. Why do you think they continually engage in this if they know that they're being used as tools?
I would say the common Wananchi would not even really know because you're coming for burials and telling me, Eric, our Gavra's son has been killed by Borana. This is what... They're making it very emotional and you're sounding like you're defending them and you're saying they're trying to take our land. Again, it's about boundaries. It's about expansionism. Like I said, 5 kilometers off from whatever direction of the Saku, where this conflict always happened, the headquarters, is the desert. Whatever direction, it's just a microclimate that is like right now. If you go very misty, foggy, that's why we don't even that's why we have so many plane crashes to Marsabit. But 5 kilometers from whatever direction is not. It's a different weather, and it's like the two communities are fighting for this.
So everybody is fighting to occupy this Saku place.
Yes, and so my leader will come and say they're taking our land. Recently, one of the leaders said, you should die for your land. And so, you see, again, illiteracy in my county is up there, 80%. So
80.
You know how it is easy to manipulate such a population. So they may not even know. That's why the few of us that have understood, I wouldn't also say the elites are doing anything about it. It looks like the more educated they are, they also become very ethnic.
But manipulate with what? Because I think that's also the question. That what is the trade-off for this? Because many would ask the question that what is somebody getting in return to take the lives of others? And I can be manipulated into such a state. What then is on the table? Are we talking about money? Are you talking about position? And even then, what position are we talking about? Money for a day? A position as the leading tribe or leading community? What are we looking at that's on the
It's
table?
that we're in power. My community is the governor. My community is the senator. It's the power. I've been made to feel as a citizen that if you're not in power, you're going to be killed by the other people. So vote me in. You know, it's about that. It's about the other tribe is taking your land. So where will you live? So where will you, raise your kids? It's fear. It's just some kind of fear instilled in people. It's lack of education by the likes of me that are neutral to the communities. We're just starting. Again, I would say it's a laxity by government. I don't hear government asking the residents of other parts of the country, what is the solution to this problem?
Exactly.
They actually get in and solve. And when the president twice gives my political leaders ultimatums to, come up with solutions, I feel like he's gambling with my life, as a citizen. Why are you telling them 2 weeks ultimatum, come up with solutions?
You
And then
people who are killing each other, sit and have a conversation and agree how you're going to stop killing each other.
I don't see that happening in Laikipia County. Even a rumor that there's going to be trouble in Laikipia, the government will do the best and say, guys, we can't afford this rumor coming true.
Well,
What about Marsabit? We're dying every day. So I'm thinking, it's a part of the country. Sorry, I'm not such a happy woman coming from there. It's like Animal Farm. I feel the three of you are more Kenyan than me, yet we're in the same country. It's like you can announce your presidential candidates before results of Marsabit are in. I mean, are we important?
The winner is announced before Marsabit.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you're ahead by 1 million, and those guys are only bringing how many votes? 150? It's insignificant, 150,000, sorry.
So you said it's not about resources, and yet you say it's about resources. Because the word that your leaders are using to incite one another is these people are taking away our land. These people we need to occupy this particular area. We need to be the ones who live in this corner of Marsabit. So it's about resources.
Yeah, it's about resources. It's not about pasture and water for the animals.
Okay.
As is out there, people.
So by
think-
resources, we always assume it's grazing lands.
which is not the case, because otherwise they've been living, grazing together, sharing water together for the longest time. Because this conflict is not, 100 years back. It's maybe as old as me, maybe 30 years or so. Again, I think there's lack of reconciliation. I'm thinking of the Torbi massacre of 2005. A child born then is about 17, 16 years.
yeah.
A child, someone who was in Form 3 like me then, we're in our early 30s. And I lost my friends, I lost my mom, I lost my siblings.
Tell us about that, the Toby massacre.
So
there are many people,
there
like
was
you're saying, who are in their 30s who don't even know anything like that. What happened in 2005?
Back in Marsabit, we know, there was massacre where Borana attacked the Gabra. Torbi, again, our way of settlement is just tribal. You'll mention Torbi to anyone in Marsabit and know that's a Gabra town. You'll say Sololo and it's definitely a Borana town. So what happened as Torbi was attacked and women and school kids, primary school kids were killed. And my point was there hasn't been reconciliation for these people that are affected. I am in my 30s. I lost my mom then. And here I am now. I'm feeling like I can revenge. Nothing was done to me. And we're so many in thousands in numbers. So we can do our worst. I'm thinking we're not doing reconciliation. We're saying forgive and move on.
You're not healing.
There's no healing. So I'll go attack the other communities. So retaliatory revenge. So it's revenge, most of
So
it.
what we're seeing is a culture that has evolved over time, where people live in an ecosystem where revenge killings, vendettas is the norm. Anything that happens, conversations don't take place. People revenge by killing back. So you count numbers. So their understanding of reconciliation, you kill one of us, we kill 10 of yours.
Sure.
And then it continues. And it's continue. You said 80% illiteracy.
Yep.
Hey.
That's high.
Sure.
Have you heard, you're talking about reconciliation and cohesion and healing. There's a commission that is maintained by Kenyan taxpayers. It's a constitutional commission, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Their commissioner, Danvas Makori, is joining us on video link. We'll talk to him shortly. But have you engaged with this commission? Has the community felt NCIC on the ground coming and saying, all right, let's look back. The historical issues that we've had, how can we resolve them going forward? How can we address these things?
Yes, we know NCIC. They've tried. They've done dialogues with these communities, Boranas alone, Gabras alone, bringing them together with Burjis and Rendiles. I have at one point even worked with consulted for NCIC as a neutral rapporteur for this community meetings, because they felt then if we take a Borana to report or a Gabra to do the report, it will be biased. So let's take someone who will capture for us, and mostly because of the language they speak. I think they've done their best. They're very friendly, but then again, as a government, we put commissions in place, but then we're not letting them do their work.
What do you mean?
Like I'd seen what NCIC wanted to do. The focus, they've even said certain commissioners in the commission will handle this case and not stop until it's done. I remember last year's International Day of Peace was supposed to happen in Moyale, and they dedicated, let's do it in Marsabit where it's burning and preach peace. Let these people talk to the rest of Kenyans and understand that they don't have to die for politicians. But this didn't happen because around the same time the president calls these leaders and says, we'll just give you an ultimatum to go and talk to each other. You see, we have kind of made the commission shelf their programs. Again,
so
while we're waiting
the executive is basically just coming in and frustrating the work that NCIC has been trying to do.
I wouldn't say frustrating, but
Don't worry. Let us say it for you.
Why would they do that? Why would of course the president has reports on his desk. Why would the president, knowing what NCIC is doing, getting the reports of what NCIC is doing, why would he come in and say, all right, no, forget about that. Let's bring in the leaders. You guys, ultimatum.
But Eric, how would that interfere? I mean, the fact that leaders are coming in to talk, how would that directly interfere with it? And can they not find a merge so that what the president said is included in what it is that they're trying to do? Like when our guest talks about holding this peace day in a particular place, surely what stops them from having this conversation and whatever it is that they wanted to do together with this meet? Because if the elders or the leaders are going to meet, they are going to meet at some point. But why not merge it with this particular day when we all know what the significance of the day? I mean, what stops all these things from being brought into place so that it all happens?
That's what I call it, frustration.
You're in the frustration.
Yes. Because why was NCIC not involved in that conversation? Okay, you leaders come, sit down, NCIC is here. What are you guys, what has NCIC been doing? What would you like to see happen?
I think they were involved. I think they were in the meeting together with the president. But the thing is, I'm just saying, if I wanted to go and say, as a commission, we're just going to tell the government, take Marsabit over. Devolution is becoming difficult. It's just not working for them. It's become something to kill them than helping them. So take it. I mean, let it. If Nairobi was taken, I'm thinking they're protecting money more than people's lives, you know. So if you're thinking Nairobi money is being misused, so let's do Nairobi Metropolitan, and we're dying, and it's not serious. I don't feel like a Kenyan, you know.
Is this? I mean, I hear you say this, and I mean, like you said, somebody who's neutral, somebody who is educated, somebody has these feelings. Is this mirrored across community, whether educated or not? Are there people who still feel as though they've been marginalized to the point where they don't feel Kenyan? And are there people who want to have something different, who want to have this situation end? Because on one hand, we have people who can still be manipulated, but then we're also saying that there are some people who say, look, this has got to stop. So where is the larger number sitting? Or is it shared equally?
As it is now, the Borana and Gabra are the majority, and they don't talk to each other, let's say. They don't, especially this year. They're not talking. Even friends that are have stopped being friends. They've lost each other. Borana have lost Gabra friends. Gabra have lost Borana friends. It's bad this year because we've lost so many people this year. So the rest of us put together, the minorities. Well, let's say there are some communities that are taking sides, and especially because it's a electioneering year. As a Burji, I may not want to lose my deputy governor position. As a Gari, I wouldn't want to lose my women rep position. As so the majority of the minority of us again have taken sides, aligned either to Gabra or Borana. There's just few of us that are thinking it's nonsense. It should stop. This is madness. But again, we also can't come out. Not so many of us can come out and say these things for fear of being killed. I mean, if someone is shot a kilometer from the police and the county commissioner's office and they just disappear into thin air, I would just be stupid to go and trying to preach peace there. I'll be shot dead and no one will care.
There'll be no action.
Yeah. So I would blame the government. People say we're blaming the government, but it's true.
Let me ask this
And
question.
just 2 days ago,
Please go ahead.
just
Go
2 days ago, CS Matiang'i said, we're now going to come into Marsabit and you will not like it.
Addressing whom?
He was addressing the Catholic.
He was speaking to the
bishop,
clergy last
clergy
week,
last week, yeah.
and in that meeting is why they said, okay, so we had given you a 30-day window so that local leaders can initiate the peace and come up with peace. And then there were still complaints that nothing much has happened. So Interior CS Fred Matiang'i said that the decision to deploy the specialized units to the violence hit county is subject to approval by the National Security Council. He was talking to the Anglican Church of Kenya bishops and senior clergy in Nairobi. And he said, you know what, the time has now come. We are still seeing killings. We are going to deploy special units to this area, and we cannot allow this to continue happening. And we know it's political.
Said the same thing in
We have to stop this. It is serious. You wanted to ask a question, Siti, before we bring in Dr. Danvas Makori.
What I wanted to ask is, traditionally, communities would have their differences, and there were mechanisms by which people went about seeking reconciliation. Are you saying that these mechanisms don't exist, or if they existed, they've gone to the dogs completely?
Everything has been monetized, even elders, just after tokens and some money. And in a pastorally communities, mostly the men elders that are consulted.
Who make these decisions?
These ones have now become politicians. So they're as good as our political leaders. Again, this reminds me the role of women and youth in talking peace, in peace building in Marsabit has been shelved. Even NCIC will try and include us in meetings as women and youth, but they'll not come because of culture, because of religion.
So what you're saying,
So-
an internal mechanism for resolving this cannot work.
It cannot work. Because even each community has 2 or 3 council of elders. That's already wrong, If we don't have
Each
as a
opposing the other.
yes. So you're internally opposing each other. So we will not have. It's just the government to do what it needs to do.
Let's bring in Dr. Danvas Makori, a commissioner with the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. Dr. Ari, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We know we got you out of a meeting that you've been holding, but you've heard what our guest Gedhia Mamo has been saying, the situation in Marsabit. We've even been seeing it in the news. It's just getting out of hand. It's been out of hand for a long time. You have participated in efforts to try and understand what the issues are here and to try and resolve the conflict in this region. What exactly is happening on the ground now, and what's NCIC doing?
Thanks, guys. Morning, everybody.
Good
First of
morning.
all, and I'm grateful to be here. Eric, I get a little bit emotional when it comes to Marsabit because I've spent a lot of life actually being here. And there's much we have done, and I'll just quickly list them things we've been doing. But before I do that, even what's been happening in news, or what you've seen in news, doesn't even capture the reality of what's happening in the ground in Marsabit. It's worse than it's being reported. I think it's way worse. The reality on the ground is actually news rarely captures the reality. I can tell you, for me personally, every day, every morning, I can get a call from the commissioner or the police commander. 3 people have died, 5 people have died, or our monitors on the ground, or partners on the ground. It is way worse than it is being reported. Now, that being said, I'm going to summarize what's happening in the ground as in this phrase. I'm going to use this word very carefully, and I know I'm using it. What's happening in Marsabit is a slow motion genocide.
Wow.
You know, exactly what's happening in Marsabit. It's a slow motion genocide, and we, for some reason, we've allowed it to happen and continue to happen. Why, I do not know. And for us as a commission, we've done our level best and above and beyond to make sure at least there is peace in Marsabit. We've led the peace process. And when it stalled, we escalated it high because stakes were very high. So there was about to be more violence. So what we did, actually, the meeting that you talked about here, is we escalated this issue to the highest office in the country, both the NSC and the president. That's why he summoned all the leaders in the State House, because we, at one point, we said, you know what, we're hitting a snag here. We've done everything we can do in our power, given what we can. Let's escalate this issue. And we did. They were summoned, they were given an ultimatum, and the communique was supposed to be released officially, which has not been, given what we had agreed with the leaders of Marsabit. But let me just quickly, if you allow me, just very quickly, give you the 5 issues in Marsabit in a structured way, so that now you can understand what we are doing and what we have done very quickly. Number 1 is existential political ethnicization. Okay? Existential political ethnicization. That is the core problem in Marsabit, which leads to number 2, a zero-sum approach to resource and power. Okay. Number 3, unresolved real and individual collective grievances. You've had Mamo speak especially about Turbi. We have unresolved real individual and collective grievances. And collective, villages have been wiped out, actually, I can tell you. I know men and women who have sat on peace tables who are no longer here, and they're deceased. They've been targeted because of this process. Then there's impunity. That's number 4. And number 5, which has been repeated here, government inaction to resolve the conflict. And that's the truth. So that's number 5, government inaction to resolve it. Because we have conflict many places in Kenya. We've had conflict in Gedhia, in Lamu. I just came from Lamu a couple of weeks ago, and it is the most policed, militarized, I think, county right now as we speak in our country. And we had an incident, and there was quite response to that. There was a curfew. Things were done, and there's stability now. So the question is, why is not being in Marsabit? So Marsabit, it's not about talk, it's about what needs to be done. We've given our advice, and some of the things we've advised, some of classified because of the nature of the issue, so we can't speak much. But I can tell you, if you list those issues I've given, it summarizes the complexity of the systems in the conflicts in Marsabit. Now, for NCAC, I have gone further. We've gone further. I just came from New York, the UN, and at the DC. The main reason I was going there is one of them actually was one of course resource. In terms of, it is a very expensive news process in Marsabit. So of course, engaging online community partners, say, you know what, we need more resources to engage there. But more importantly, we had a special meeting with the Undersecretary of Genocide Prevention, the UN, the Office of the Secretary General. Because, like I said, what is happening in Marsabit exactly what is that? And for me, I've escalated this to the highest level in our country and in the world, so that there is attention, the spotlight, resolve it, because we have to resolve this issue. For me, when you go there and you see the mothers crying and the children crying and men who've lost families, and it is just devastating. Now with current drought and famine, it is not helping the situation any worse. So we've been adamant, we've been steadfast, we've escalated, we've been very consistent, and then sometimes I know the people in Marsabit are feeling like we are giving up, but we haven't. We've worked behind the scenes, we're pushing, we're lobbying, we've done what we can to make sure at least there is peace and long-term stability in the county of Marsabit.
Let's take a break on that note. You've told us very many things, Bona Commissioner. Basically, he's just calling it, this is a slow motion genocide that's taking place in Marsabit County. As we see being reported in the news, it's nothing close to what's actually happening on the ground. Every day, reports of 5, 10 or more people being killed, and yet the government is just dilly-dallying with the situation. Danvas is a commissioner with NCIC. Gedhia Mamo is from Marsabit County. She's a resident of Marsabit. She wants to be the next woman rep of this county. We're talking about what's happening in that county and why it's taking so long. Let's take this quick break, take a look at the weather and traffic, and then we continue the conversation. What's wrong with Marsabit? This, let's now even call it the slow motion genocide in Marsabit. What can we do about it?
This is the Situation Room.
Gedhia, as you've heard, Dr. Makori is basically saying this one, let's just call it for what it is. It's a slow motion genocide, and there are very many things that NCIC has been trying to do. This issue has been escalated to the National Security Council, to the top office, the president. He's even gone to meet with the UN Undersecretary in charge of genocide and saying, look, we need to monitor what's happening in the country. From the community's perspective, are the perpetrators of this violence known by the community? Do you know, from where you sit, from you talking to your neighbors, from talking to your relatives, do you people know who is behind this?
Not so many of us are giants in politics from home. So there are very few, so we know them. The Minister for Interior said it's politics, it's selfish politicians that are behind this. So they also know. So we know. The problem is, as a resident of Marsabit, I cannot come out and name anyone.
Essentially, you'll be putting your life in danger.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, if a witness in Nairobi doesn't feel protected by the government, you can imagine in Marsabit. Again, these people, they're related. They've intermarried. I have friends who are mothers are Borana, the dad is Gabra, or vice versa. And they don't even know, how to identify themselves to what side.
They don't know whether they're Gabra or Borana.
Boranas. Because if you say you're Borana, you're doomed. If you say you're Gabra, you're doomed either way. So,
And yet, ordinarily, that is what would actually lead to peace.
Yes.
Because then, why would I be fighting? If I fight I identify as Gabra, fighting Borana, I'm fighting my own people. If I fight the Gabra, I'm fighting my own people. We should be getting to a situation where, because of this intermarriage, there'd be peace.
Has that region ever had a leader who is acknowledged as a leader in the community, the larger Marsabit community, and who has actually embraced other people from other communities within Marsabit? Historically, that is.
Historically, these people are one and the same thing. They speak the same language. They live in the same.
So what we're calling tribes or sub-tribes are actually clans.
Well, they all have their clans, yes. Like I'd say Gabras are camel keepers and Boranas are cattle keepers. That's maybe the one major difference.
Yes.
But then the rest of the thing, their prayers, their traditional cultures, their traditional systems of conflict resolutions are the same. And with time, because of climate change and all, even Boranas are not keeping cattle anymore. They find the camel being more resistant to the drought. And so they're all now camel keepers. They're now one and the same thing. I feel as a Sakuya, I'm not even marginalized anymore. Even the El Molo is much better than my friends who are mixed of Borana and Gabra. These people cannot even get the CDF if they're mixed, because go get it from the Gabra or go get it from the Borana. So they're lost in between. I feel this are even special. This is something else. The special group marginalized, by yet they're from the two major.
Essentially, their leadership are the ones who have brought about this situation that we are discussing here. And they have followed suit. Are there people within these communities who have seen this game and have even stood against and said, no, folks, we're not putting up with this? Are there any people? Or when you stand up, essentially, you become an ancestor immediately?
You're clobbered.
I think you've had people who have, but they've given up.
Right.
Like even the religious leaders, both Islamic and Christian, they used to speak about this on the radios to people in churches and mosques. They sit together, address the locals. I don't see that happening anymore. I think that it's become, it's nothing. We're just talking and nothing is happening. They've given up. We're even having women coming together and saying enough. We have a group of women now. They're saying we are going to march to the president. We're just going to tell him, well, are we Kenyans? Are we important to him? And I see now women coming up. I've seen elites trying to come together, but you'll call for a meeting. Either Gavras will show up and Boranas will not show up, or Boranas will come and Gavras will not come. So people are just tired, I'd say. Just like Commissioner said, the Commission is tired of telling them to talk to each other. They've said now it's a government thing.
So
Uhuru, step in.
Sure.
That's what the Commissioner said. I think that's where it is. We're just tired of talking about it.
So Danvas, I mean, here we are, and I mean, here Gedhia is telling us, look, we know who these people are. I mean, it's akin to the mafia stories that we hear. You know who the members of the gangs of New York, you know who these individuals are, but you're afraid to say because you fear for your life. It's a very real situation that we see today. So the question is, the powers that be, what exactly is stopping the powers that be, even from getting under the table information from community members and then doing something about this? What stops that from happening?
Actually, there's nothing stopping them from getting information. They have all the information. I can tell you that for a fact. They have all the information. I've always said when there is a will, there is a way. Is there a will? Because we talk a lot, but I think it's time for action. I've called for action for the past 1 year. Why? Because every day that goes by is the day that 3 people are going to die. So if we're going to save a life today, by having a special intervention, well, let it be. So it's. I can tell you, it's not that they're not known. They know. Everybody knows there. The list is there. The actors are known. Some of these leaders that have engaged these actually are not the nicest people, I can tell you. But the fact is, they're known. The question is why the relevant authorities, because we have what we call a multi-agency approach to this issue. It's not just NCSA. We have, of course, the National Police. We have NGAO, which is the administration. We sit in the regional and both regional and county security intelligence committees. These names have been known. I mean, I can tell you for a fact. I mean, when you know somebody's a thief, you go arrest him. Like, there's evidence. There's clear evidence. Some of the leaders, all of them, but some of the leaders aid and abet and support and push and this conflict. It's well known. Understand? And let me just say this, because you have a political aspirant to this show, and this is first of all to pivot further, because there are two people who can make a difference in Marsabit. One is the government. 2 are the poor Marsabit. So now let me also address the poor Marsabit, because now they have an opportunity either to choose men and women who are proponents of peace and reconciliation and healing, or who will continue the same cycle of violence, who are warlords. And that's what I'm going to call them. Okay? So they have a choice, because at one point, either you choose those leaders who espouse for peace, champion for peace, who bring you peace because you ought to be tired of this endless violence, or you continue with some of them who continued to preach hate, preach incitement, plant seeds of discord, or for political, or actually for expediency, for selfish interest. Because even if one leader says they are defending a community, really they are not. It's just their own selfish interest. That's a fact. They are not. Because the people who suffer is the old people. If the Borana leader, the Boranas will suffer. If the Gabra leader, the Gabras will suffer. They die. Both Boranas and Gabras have died in this conflict. But they have lost livestock in this conflict. Property, houses have been burned. Okay? If you go to the graveyards of marked with both communities, okay, and even the Ranilas too, been caught up in the crossfire. We saw those kids who were killed the other day. So the fact is, people of Marsabit, if they can hear me, this is an opportunity this August actually to choose now leaders who will take Marsabit to the next level of peace, because other counties are not going what Marsabit is going.
But Daktari, let me just ask this question.
Yes.
Everything you're saying is actually true and it's desirable. But with the sort of conflict that we see there, what sort of election do you think they're going to have in Marsabit? People have been displaced. They're all over the place. They're
living in fear.
living in fear. Surely,
True.
I agree that is what they ought to do. But an environment in which they can actually do it has to be provided, and it's beyond them. This is something that only the government can do. The question I really want to ask, Danvas, is this. Who protects these people? Because you don't hear of arrests.
For the perpetrators.
Yes. You can't be a local warlord and continue warmongering and nothing happens to you. Someone is protecting you.
Of course.
Someone much, much higher up has given you that free pass.
Let me.
That's not the end of my question. To what end? Because these people don't perpetrate violence just for the sake of it. There's an end to it. To what end?
I think it's been alluded here. Resource is the end. But money and power is always, because people are benefiting out of this system. I can tell you that for a fact. The people who actually are benefiting out of it. So when you see chaos in a place, there's somebody and it's being sustained over a level of time, people are actually benefiting out of it. In Somalia, you have something called a war economy. There are people who don't want to see that conflict end because they're benefiting out of it. And that's how it is. And also, on one end, there is that part. Also, the other end is just sheer lack of will just to act, just to do what is right, to arrest these perpetrators and these criminals and people who perpetrate this violence. So it's a mixture of two. One, the fact is it's just lack of will, and number two, the people who are gaining out of this conflict system that we see in Marsabit. It's just that's how it is.
When you say you're not seeing action being taken, what action would you like to see being taken today?
We what action similar to what is happening in Mamo, but not to that scale, because Marsabit is the largest county in this country by far. It is the size of Western, Central, Nairobi, Nyanza combined, and it still have more space. So you cannot physically deploy all security operators there. What we were getting for is a targeted approach, okay? Where we have specialized units, because we know where these people are, we know who these people are, they are known, and just go after the infrastructure that supports this violence, the people and the entire infrastructure, the supply, the logistics network, the supply network, that aid and abate the movement of militias. And the people behind them, the financiers are known. Actually, if you go after the financiers, I can tell you it will dry up because they buy arms. Do you know how much an AK-47 costs? About 80,000. That is not chump change. How much does a bullet cost? About 200. Like, you see, that's not some people finance this thing. So there are financiers who finance this thing. So go after them.
Okay. And you, Gedhia, what would you like to see? What action would you like to see taken today? Specifics.
Let me just say, I had his question of how we're even going to do elections. The sad bit is, on the 8th of August, the government will actually take action to protect the ballot boxes and the ballot papers. We will actually come out and vote. But once you've cast your vote and you're back to your house by 5 or 6 in the evening, the ballot papers and the ballot boxes with the security is all gone and we're back to where we were. So we are going to vote, sadly, because we'll see security is here. Government will, the
government will actually be there.
Will actually be there. That is what I want to see happen now. I mean, the energy you will put in protecting the papers and the boxes, just put it on protecting my life.
Absolutely.
That's just it.
That's a strong point. And we thank you very much for joining us today, Gedhia. There's a lot that needs to happen, and like Commissioner Danvas is saying, we need to make sure that this is a national headline for a long time until action is actually taken. We need to make sure that people know what is happening in Marsabit is worse than what we have ever witnessed for such a long time in this country. And we have to. Thank you, Danvas, and thank you, Gedhia, for coming.
Thank you.
And thank you for making this a headline. Thank you. You're saving lives by doing this.
Asante sana. It's our duty to do so.